will have a seventh game in his 1975 World Series.
Here it is. Ground ball to second. Reese. The Boston Red Sox have won the pennant. Leading by 3 as Brown hits it to left. He might send the Yankees to the World Series.
Goodbye.
Oh, what a blow! What a way to top it off! Forget about who the most valuable player is in the World Series.
And Reggie would hit 2 more that night, and I was there. But just some snapshots of some great moments here. Fisk waving it fair, Aaron freaking Boone, the worst collapse. I can't believe the amount of New England relatives and friends, so-called, that I have to still hear about that epic collapse of the Yankees.
Dodgers winning 2-0 in 1955. Johnny Padres,
Now
Sandy
Ambrose.
Yes.
I tried to keep that all.
Yeah,
That's
there you
the
go.
spectrum
What happened
of
to
the
the Reggie
week here.
bar? I'm curious about that.
Well, for you, yeah, you remember the Reggie bars, right? People forget they used to throw to Reggie also. But okay, I want you to speak for a second. We don't have a lot of time, I know that, but there was a political moment in a debate that, we were talking about a debate earlier tonight, but the Reagan-Mondale debate. Remember how everybody, and I think people forget, Reagan's age was a major issue at the time. And Mondale, though trailing, people seem to think it was like a 50-point blowout or something. He won 49 states, Reagan did. But before this debate, there was a lot of questions as to whether or not Mondale could throw a haymaker here and win. Well, this is back in October of 1984, and let's play the clip where Reagan showed that he could give certainly as good, if not better, than he got.
I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
And in that line, though, right?
I've got to say, though, Mondale was so good-natured in his response to that. I mean, he laughed genuinely. Like, you don't see those kind of exchanges anymore. I mean, Reagan gets so much credit for that that moment.
But
Mondale
with
should
one
too.
line, though, right?
Mondale should too. He just laughed, but he flipped it with that line. No, it was a great moment. for
Mondale
him.
had a great line in that campaign, too. If you maybe recall, Where's the Beef?
Yes.
Clara
Peller, remember?
Right.
Yeah.
But the genius of the Reagan moment was that it took an essential weakness of his campaign and his candidacy and flipped it.
Yeah.
That's why that one, I think, remains one of the best.
Historically, and I'm not trying to minimize by any means. I mean, we saw what happened, the tragedy yesterday in Ottawa. We've seen the challenges of ISIS globally. We've talked about Ebola, and there was obviously the incident playing out at Bellevue today. But sometimes you need points of comparison to think about challenges on a global scale, on a global scale. And if you look back, yes, maybe a long time ago, 52 years ago, but still, this month here, it's 52 years since the Cuban Missile Crisis. And again, if you want to talk about a reality check, when people say World War or Armageddon and nuclear, it wasn't hype at that point. People really didn't know where we were.
The United States military, the Air Force, wanted to bomb, use atomic weapons. The president was under political pressure to look strong. He cut a deal with Khrushchev in which the United States made a major concession, removing missiles from Turkey, removing missiles from Cuba. It made perfect sense. Khrushchev gave him political cover, but they dealt with each other. The key moment of that thing was when Khrushchev sent 2 separate telegrams to Kennedy. One was belligerent, and the other was conciliatory. And Bobby Kennedy, Jack asked Bobby, "What do we do now?" And Bobby said, "Answer the one you like." They ignored the belligerent one, they answered the other one, and they negotiated themselves out of what could have been as close to a nuclear confrontation as possible. And the public in America understood that. I recall it.
And my only point of all this is when sometimes, and I'm as guilty as anybody, we talk about some of the insurmountable problems, the intraction in Congress, the dysfunctional fighting, the partisanship, and all the rest. Put in context, just some of the chapters in American history that we've not only gotten past but gotten better from, and how dangerous things were. And again, I'm not in any way minimizing the threats of ISIS and extremism and parts of the world that are on fire, and I know that, but we've seen as bad, if not worse, before, and we've gotten through it. And I guess just that little historical context from my end, at least.
It's important to teach the science, the STEM, science, technology, and math, but you got to teach history. You got to teach history. I mean, that's
and also how people handled it.
Faces its dangers. We're looking at an Astorino candidacy for
And on that note, Richard, thank you. Thank you all here, even Richard. When we come back, we take a look at news making headlines in the Valley. So it's